Good morning. Yes, so I am Tamara and I sit within the CSIRO SME Connect team, a team that delivers a series of initiatives and programs designed to support and encourage innovation activity in Australian small and medium-sized businesses. So SMEs are my thing, understanding what makes them tick and what they need in order to prosper and grow. So I'm excited to hear from all of the speakers over the next 2 days. So I want to start our symposium by just setting the scene a little bit. Sorry, I'm just going to fix something on my watch so it doesn't ping me. Set the scene a little by just talking about the who and what SMEs are, why digital innovation matters to these sorts of businesses, and I'll leave the how AI, cyber, simulation, digital twins and the like can be leveraged. I'll leave the how to our expert speakers who'll be with us over the next 2 days. There is no universal definition of small and medium-sized businesses. We don't have an agreed method by which we can distinguish a macro business from a small, a medium or a large one. Often some of the categorisations that are used to determine where a business sits in terms of size is employee numbers, the turnover that they generate in a year, or even the gross asset value. And this changes across different countries, different regulatory and different tax authorities. But in data and policy speak in Australia, typically the method that we use most often is employment size. In Australia, we typically determine an SME as one which has a headcount of less than 200 employees. In Europe, it's worth noting that sits at 250, and in the US at 500. So of these businesses with less than 200 employees, Australia has some almost 2.3 million of them, and that's based on data of active ABN registrations. This accounts for some 99.8% of all Australian firms. It's worth noting that some 1.4 million of these 2.3 million, though, are actually non-employers. They're 700,000 are sole proprietors, and another 700,000 or so holding and shelf companies or investment vehicles. But this still leaves just under 1 million firms with between 1 and 199 employees. So, and I say this because quite obviously the digital technologies for a sole proprietor, the digital technologies that a sole proprietor might utilise to foster growth in their business will vary, of course, understandably, from those invested in by companies with close to a couple of hundred employees. In the year to 2021, employing SMEs, so those actually with more than one employee, actually grew, whereas the non-employers shrank. There are another way that we might distinguish an SME is by turnover. And the turnover of those businesses in Australia with revenue of at least $50,000, which equates a little more than the Australian minimum wage, there are 1.7 million of those. So there's lots of different ways to cut this. There are small and medium-sized businesses across every single Australian industry. We have a huge proportion, however, almost 1/3 of SMEs sits within the construction and the professional, scientific and technical services categorisations. And this covers off things like builders, tradespeople, engineers, architects, marketing, communications, legal, finance, accounting firms. Whatever way we look at it, we really are a nation of small and medium-sized businesses. By any of these definitions, it very much makes up the huge proportion of what drives our economy, accounting for 66 or more, depending on the year you're looking at, of Australian employment and 55% of our GDP. So if we are a nation of small and medium-sized businesses, what keeps these businesses awake at night? What concerns them? And how is it that digital technologies can support these millions of businesses to prosper and grow? A recent Australian Institute of Company Directors Sentiment Index for the first half of 2022 showed that whilst business confidence, company directors are generally positive, they have experienced a drop in confidence, understandably. It's worth noting that the degree of business confidence in business conditions here in Australia is actually dependent upon the state in which the company is located, with New South Wales showing the greatest drop in confidence. In addition to global economic uncertainty, the economic challenges that these directors of Australian companies are concerned about are the chronic labour shortage, as we're certainly hearing a lot about, climate change, the ongoing impacts and risks associated with COVID-19, and productivity growth, or more accurately, a lack thereof. In terms of the number one thing keeping these directors awake at night, directors identified cybercrime and data security, with concerns really around its increasing risk profile generally, that it's difficult to understand and that they're feeling not equipped to deal with it. Whilst directors surveyed acknowledged that flexible working and working from home brought about or accelerated through the pandemic has certainly helped to improve staff wellbeing and also supported staff attraction and retention, over half of the directors felt that working from home had negatively impacted cybersecurity for their company. The other thing of concern in keeping these directors awake at night are skills shortages. And with directors stating they felt this was a very short-term this should be a very important short-term priority for government to support businesses in addressing. Almost 60% of these directors felt their company needed to increase digital capabilities, and only 12% of company directors felt that their board had an appropriate digital technology strategy. The other concern was that directors feel that their time is being spent more on risk and compliance over the pursuit of, or devising strategy and the pursuit of growth. So these last 2 years have obviously been challenging for small and medium-sized businesses, as they have been for everyone. The pursuit of business growth has often been replaced with simply a hope for survival, until such time as optimism and opportunities start to return. And as we emerge from COVID-19, I think it's really important that we support businesses to know that innovation, which I define as the pursuit of improvement generally in a business, the pursuit of something different that creates value, its pursuit of innovation has a proven profound impact on business performance. Innovation is known to foster growth. Findings of numerous studies are consistent on this. We know that innovation-active companies are twice as likely to report increases in productivity than non-innovators. Some 89% of innovation-active companies can point to a tangible benefit of investing in innovation, be that improved customer service, improved revenue. And this holds true even where the innovation activity is still in progress and even where it's been abandoned. Revenue growth in firms of all sizes, from small to large, that invest in innovation have been shown to outperform those who don't invest in innovation. The top performers versus average performers of ASX-listed firms were shown, the difference between top performers and average performers has been shown to be the novel innovation adopted in the former, with those top performers having 11 times wider innovation collaboration relationships than average performers. So the degree to which top performers collaborate with the likes of universities, customers, suppliers, public or private organisations for their innovation was 11 times broader than average performers. Small and mid-sized firms specifically that accelerate their investment in technology and are more sophisticated users of IT are shown to have higher revenue and employment growth than those small and medium firms with slower, lower technology spends. But unfortunately, despite the consistent evidence across the literature that firms enjoy greater growth, improved productivity, and enjoy a higher survival rate if they invest in innovation, including digital technologies. The Australian private sector has been performing relatively poorly on almost all measures of innovation activity levels compared to OECD peers. Our business innovation investment as a share of GDP sits at 1.9%, which is 2/3 of the European average and less than half of the top performers. An Accenture Digital Performance Index has ranked Australia as second last of the OECD countries for business investment, uptake and output of digital technologies. But this can and is ripe for change, now more than ever. The context with which these small and medium-sized businesses have been operating has encompassed a public health crisis, cataclysmic forces of climate change, a major structural adjustment in our national and global production and distribution systems, and we are witnessing a serious shift in 3 decades of almost uninterrupted economic growth in Australia, spurred by booming demand for our mineral resources and high immigration, neither of which we can continue to exploit. And businesses are aware of this. They're looking to do something different. We can, though, encourage them and support these small and medium-sized businesses to harness technology and digital innovations to not just grow, but to future-proof generally. So over the next 2 days, we'll hear from a number of expert speakers on the how SMEs can leverage innovations and investment in AI, cyber, simulation, digital twins, and also how SMEs can and are contributing to a reinvention of the way science happens. So I urge everyone here today, and I'll do my best to encourage new attendees also over the next 2 days, to really explore the tools presented and seek out explanations in a language that resonates with small and medium-sized businesses. Business and research institutes, understandably, have different cultures in their organisations and different approaches to business. And I think it's really important that we all take the time to drill into concepts, case studies and use cases, particularly when we're dealing with technology, to a degree where both parties, both sides, are sharing a language. It's not always the case that a business's definition of a deployable working prototype is the same definition of a working prototype of a researcher. And so I think if we drill into concepts over the next 2 days, confidently to pursue a genuine understanding, then we're doing a great thing. And opportunities like this symposium are really important, crucial opportunities, in fact, ensuring that these technologies will have sufficient impact on our nation, a nation of small and medium-sized businesses. So I very much look forward to learning from all those presenting over the next 2 days. And I will be here, so if anyone has any questions or wishes to discuss opportunities to support businesses pursue innovation, then please come and have a chat. Thank you.